have known this, but they posted a graphic yesterday that included Jalen Hurts and Jalen Carter and Saquon Barkley. By the way, Cooper's favorite player is Jalen Hurts. We've been playing with the football a lot out back. And he goes, I'm Jalen Hurts. I'm Jalen Hurts. And then he says, Daddy, you're Jalen Carter. He doesn't understand the offense-defense thing yet.
Yeah.
So I like bull rush him and I tackle him, and then he doesn't understand why. I go, he told me I'm Jalen Carter. Man.
Yeah, man.
Kid's got to learn.
Blitz pickups, not his strong suit yet. He'll get there, though. It took Jalen a couple years, and now he's great at it. So Cooper will develop.
But I saw a tweet in response to the opponents that I thought was very spot on. And forgive me, I didn't screenshot it, but if you're listening, you know who you are. And the person said in response to the Eagles' opponent's tweet that came out over the weekend, quote, "Thank God the Eagles won the Super Bowl." Now, look, the Eagles are a very good football team, and they're going to be very good next year as well. But I understand the reaction from somebody when they see the list of opponents. Their home games this year, obviously the division, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders. The Chicago Bears, who knows, with year one of Ben Johnson, year two of Caleb Williams, does that team look better? The Detroit Lions could be your week one opponent, and they'll be healthy. The Denver Broncos, who knows, with year two of Bo Nix and Sean Payton. The LA Rams with the return of Matthew Stafford, who went toe-to-toe with you in the NFC divisional round of the playoffs, and then the Raiders, who will probably just get destroyed. Or that's the Panthers game where the Eagles barely win, and we go, what the hell is wrong with this football team? The road games. So, hold on real quick. Home games, pretty difficult.
Yeah, not easy.
You know, the Lions coming here, the Rams coming here. We've seen the Rams twice last season.
And now that Stafford is back with the Rams as well.
Yeah, which I couldn't even believe that there was talks of him going elsewhere. I understand it was all money related, but you were one non-slip away of Tyler Higbee from potentially going to the NFC title game.
Yeah, exactly. So they should have kept him, and they did.
Yeah. So pretty difficult home games, but the road games, this is going to be tough. Cowboys, Giants, Commanders.
Light work.
The Buccaneers, who we'll see. You know, Baker Mayfield had a hell of a season losing and was without Mike Evans for a long time, was without Chris Godwin for a long time. Do the Buccaneers, and by the way, it feels like it's every year they're in Tampa. Every year
right?
It feels like it.
What's the deal with that?
It's just, I guess, the way that it works out with who you're playing and what place you finish in, and all. I mean, you're playing a first place schedule.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just weird. It just feels like, and it's always in Tampa.
Right. That's
two playoff games in there too. Skew it a little bit too.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a tricky game for Eagles fans. I don't think the league looks at that as, wow, the place the Eagles could struggle, but we know that that's a place they've had trouble.
In Green Bay, in Kansas City, out west with the Chargers, in Minnesota, and then in Buffalo. So the road opponents are tough, and you have the extra road game this year. Last year you had the extra home game. So when I saw the tweet, thank God the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I understood where that person was coming from. Now, look, this schedule, the Eagles could very well still win 11, 12 games and get back to the playoffs, and we saw last year alone a year where nothing necessarily looked pretty other than the run game and obviously the defense. They made easy work of their final two playoff games en route to a Super Bowl win. It's going to be hard to repeat regardless of what your schedule is. But I understand where that person's coming from. Now, we'll see. Once the schedule comes out, how does it break? Remember, 2 years ago was the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Is it more balanced where you might be playing some difficult opponents early on in the season, then the midway point, then the end of the season? Usually the division rival games are at the end of the season, and if you're saying easy work, then that's great.
You'll probably have to get on a plane after Thanksgiving next year.
Well, that's the thing. You didn't have that travel. I was talking to my man Vince from Philly Sports Strips last week, just keeping in touch, and I was like, I asked him straight up, I was like, does the football season exhaust you? Because he goes on all the trips. He goes, dude, I haven't really been on a plane. Because their road games were MetLife and D.C.
Yeah, outside of New Orleans, they haven't really had to do that. And that's going to change. Here's the thing that should comfort Philadelphia Eagles fans. If you're like that person who responded to the tweet saying, thank God they won the Super Bowl, you also have to look at who they're going to be competing with as far as the teams. Now, like if you're in the AFC and you have that, like let's just say the Eagles were an AFC East team, and you're going to think about what Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore and all of these teams are going to do in the regular season. And do we have to get to 13 wins to find our way to a 1 seed? Do we have to get to 14 wins? Like, Detroit's going to take a step back this year from what they were because of the loss of both coordinators. Minnesota is no way going to repeat what they did.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I still think Chicago isn't close. Green Bay is okay. Like, you look at the contenders in the NFC, and there's no team that you look at and say, well, that team's going to go get a guaranteed 12, 13 wins.
Right.
So, yeah, dude, you could be I think some team's going to go get 13, but 13 might be the mark for the 1 seed in the NFC this year.
Could be. And by the way, you mentioned the Commanders' schedule. We talked about this last week. Exact same home games. The only difference is they have the Seahawks and the Eagles have the Rams because the first and second place schedules. But the Commanders at home have the division games and then Bears, Lions, Broncos, Raiders. And then the road games, all the same, except instead of Tampa, they're playing Atlanta for the second place schedule. And they have the Dolphins, whereas the Eagles have the Bills. So those are the only two differences.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough year for the NFC East, but it's not a strong conference. So if you're worried about that, you have to look at the opponents and say, who really is the juggernaut team in the NFC outside the Eagles?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
All right, love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. Coming up next, there's a note of the Myles Garrett discussion that we had last week with John that I want to address. And it's something that John said that he may be off base on. Speaking of John,